Hello and welcome to the State of Events, where event professionals connect. Are you a new chef in the event industry? Maybe you're an up-and-coming florist or event designer. In this fun summer series, titled Event Professional versus Event Professional, newcomers interview a seasoned OG, discussing how they got their start, what they're up to now, and what their future hopes are for the event industry. This is Chef on Chef.
Hey, Chef Dorsey.
How's it going there, Natasha?
Oh, I am doing good. It's so good to see you. I love that painting in the background.
Thank you.
Really, it's beautiful. It almost looks like people. Is it meant to be people?
Those are people. It's actually, I can't call the artist, but this is a print of a market in Africa, an open market.
I love it. Absolutely.
Periodically, my kids and I will sit and kind of look to see what we can find or who we can find in the painting. My daughter swears that Beyonce is somewhere back in there.
Okay, Beyonce. I'm pretty sure she probably could be. Now it'll be my job maybe during this interview to find Jay-Z, because I'm pretty sure he's nearby too.
Right.
Yes. So Chef Dorsey, thank you so much. I'm so happy that we get this time together today.
Yeah.
Where are you in the world today?
I am in Piedmont, California.
Awesome.
Little small space surrounded by the beautiful Oakland, California.
Oakland, Piedmont. What a beautiful area. Is the weather beautiful there at this time?
It is actually. I think it's been getting around 80s or so, but cools off in the evening. So kind of typical Bay Area summers I grew up with around here.
Awesome. Well, Chef Robert Dorsey, catering events, that is your business. And I just want to know, how did you get your start in this industry, in the cooking industry? How did you start doing catering events? How did you become a chef?
Oh, I'll give you the short version here.
Okay.
Because we could talk for hours. We'd need like cocktails and dinner.
Oh, all that.
But it was back in the 80s. I was watching the local public television station, KQED, PBS, and following the likes of Jacques Pepin and Julia Child. And it was a show, Great Chefs of the West, Yan Can Cook. And then it helped that, I was in a family, at least down the street. My grandmother was a great cook. I was from Louisiana and cooks amazing food. And so I just kind of took a liking to it. As many of my friends were riding bikes and hanging out playing on Saturdays, I was toiling in the kitchen, trying to figure out new recipes and watching all this artistry on the plates on television. And I said, at 11 years old, this is what I want to do. And so the rest, I can't say it. The rest is history, but it took some hurdles to get into the industry. First started off washing dishes at a restaurant at 14 and did that for a few years. And eventually by my junior year in high school, I started an apprenticeship with a French chef just a few blocks from my high school and started learning classical French cuisine. So
wow. And how old were you at that time?
At that place, I was 17. So started in the industry at 14. Started a semi-formal apprenticeship at 17.
Wow. And French cuisine at that?
French cuisine, yes.
Okay. Most people still trying to learn how to make tacos at 17. So you truly had a calling.
Well, wow. I had this book, very popular, Mastering the Art of French Cooking by Julia Child. And that was kind of like my culinary Bible that I toted around everywhere.
That's awesome.
Cooking things out of those books. And I still reference a lot of those recipes and techniques to this day, some 30 plus years later.
Wow. So at 11 years old, you felt like you already knew you wanted to do this. And so I just feel like also that's one of those things that really will shape the course of your life when you feel like you have direction. How did that impact you as a young person, like knowing where you were headed and what direction you were going in?
It actually helped me stay the course, because there was some outside of the culinary world, there was reality. There's my reality that yeah, thank God today that he gave me this gift of culinary arts and my creative side, because it helped me steer clear of a lot of things that would take me down a whole nother path in life. So I'm thankful for that. So there's a lot of guys I knew running the streets and getting into some unsavory business, and it helped me steer clear. So I think it's a testament to the fact I'm like here today to be having this interview with you. A lot of guys I know are not here. So it's a saving grace.
Thank God. And thank God you had somewhere to go to like be mentored too at a young age. How did that mentorship come about? Do you recall?
I think I was just so driven and so hungry that I was like, you are going to train me. Like I'm going to work hard. And I just kept pestering people. Whoever was in the kitchen. There's a woman from where's Georgia from? She lived on 35th Avenue in East Oakland.
Oh, I lived on.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
I did.
All right. She was the baker at the restaurant when I was a kid, and I was over her shoulder. And to this day, I still have notes from her, like pie making, her crust techniques and different things that she did. But I was just very fortunate, just eager to learn, and I was aspiring to do what I saw those guys doing on television, and just so driven that I just kept studying and taking notes and trying and beating down the door of different restaurants. Once I got out, once I finished my apprenticeship, start moving around San Francisco and working at different places with different chefs from around the world, and it really kind of shaped where I was going to go. So it was thought out.
I love it. I love it. So to be able to serve your community where you were raised, how does that feel to be able to work, serve, and be born and bred in the place that you're now working in? What is that like?
It's a very special thing. It's taken some time for things to kind of come full circle. I don't know if you know, Oakland is like having this culinary renaissance where food is in. There's many years where you could go to Oakland and like you were only getting a specific type of cuisine, or only on certain areas you're able to find food. It's a bit of a food desert, if you will, when it came to cuisine. Outside of kind of mom and pop shops. So as you look at Oakland rise, it's I kind of get a little glow, because it's definitely our time, and especially for African American folks entering the industry, it's a time where I really want to see folks do well. Over many years, like I said, there was bits of a food desert as it relates to finer cuisine. But really, for us, there weren't places that you could go to patronize where you felt really welcome. So it's exciting that we have influences from many parts of the diaspora here in Oakland, and can look back and say, wow, these are my roots,
Certainly. Right. And having been blessed to live in Oakland 3 years, Oakland is another home for me. I see how much of a cultural melting pot it is with so much history. So being that you are in a space where now you have this renaissance, as you mentioned, of food, and it's like a glow up in the culinary industry, where do you find your place in it? What is your specialty? What makes you happy and brings you joy in this industry?
I would say just kind of sharing the melting pot that we're in. I was born in Oakland, raised partly in Berkeley, and now come back in Oakland. And so it's just really interesting. The folks that we have here in the Bay Area and the cuisines that are represented are countless. And so for me as a culinarian and as a chef, one of my greatest joys is being able to share culture and cuisine with people. So you might sit at my table and I might have some Afghani influences and got my grandma's, hot water cornbread and black eyed peas going on over here. But I just love that. and that it's the way I like to eat and the way I like to cook. And so you're just able to go so many places with that when you sit down at a table with folks and share cuisine and food. I mean, cuisine and culture. That's just very special.
Yes, certainly.
Just brings us together, brings the world together.
It's so beautiful because everyone has to eat, and you make it, I'm sure, such a palatable experience. I was just thinking, I was wondering, I'm like, I wonder what his favorite dish is. So can you dish on your favorite dish and even
dish
make
on my favorite dish? Let me see. That is like one of the toughest questions. I tell folks that I could eat Japanese food, like I could eat sushi at least 3 days a week.
Great choice.
Good, fresh, like out of the ocean. I'm a sucker for so much. I'm a sucker for food. I love to eat probably more than I enjoy cooking. Yes.
I'm a foodie too. So with that said, if someone had to prepare a meal for you from your family, if you could go back to that young boy in Louisiana that was in his grandma's kitchen, what would grandma be serving up for you, Chef Dorsey?
That's an easy one. That's an easy
what?
That would be a plate of black-eyed peas and neck bones, fresh hot water cornbread. Gotta have some sweet tea, candy yams. Maybe a little collard mustard green mix, some of Granny's fried chicken. And this is how we ate on Wednesday afternoon, in the summer.
Listen.
What else is on that plate? We got the fried chicken as a must, black-eyed peas. That's kind of it, just fresh things right out of the garden. A lot of those things came right out of her 700 square foot garden that she had. And we dug and toiled in, and, my friends were laughing at me, I'm pulling a hoe over my shoulder. Like, what are you doing out there? Come noon, my grandma was like, it's time to eat. I was like, see, we about to eat.
Listen, so now back to your experiences as a chef in the Bay Area. And San Francisco, like we mentioned, it's a melting pot. It has so much history. And I know it's a place of tourism too. So what has been some of your crazy kitchen experiences as a chef? Like some of the craziest experiences you've had?
Craziest experiences. Let's see if I can give you two.
Okay.
I can recall in 1999, where I was working for a relatively large restaurant that will go unnamed in the Soma district. And a few days before New Year's Eve, my chef resigned.
Okay.
I think a lot of the guys were going to take him out back because he was gouging them and he was doing some really interesting things on their paycheck. So I think they had it out for him. And so he decides to resign. And I think we had 400 reservations on the books that night. I don't think that restaurant had ever seen 400 reservations. And so all of a sudden I was the guy's executive sous chef. And so I had to step up and take the reins for ordering and, managing some 30, 40 odd people and get prepared for this big day. So a lot of pressure, young Chef Dorsey. The day came and those people flooded into that place. And the cooks, the computer system, the check system just start spitting out checks, and it just did not stop. And I would say about 11 o'clock, not even 11, maybe about 10, we got into a situation where we got so backed up on the line where just food was not moving. You just had piles and piles of tickets. And it was like, you just sort through and say, oh, take this to table 27, they got pizza. Take this to table 7, they had a Caesar. But it was no rhyme or reason, and things got out of control. And it was so wild that a young lady decided she was going to come onto our open line at the restaurant and put on a show. And so she starts walking down the line, moving one garment at a time, full restaurant. It was on my watch. So they're like, Dorsey, you let her strip on your line? Like, what's up with that? I was like, it's a customer. What I want to do here.
Oh my goodness. Was this San Francisco? It sounds like it.
Yeah, she went topless. I was like, okay. Yeah.
That's a whole new take on tapas. Wow. Oh,
but yeah, there's some folks I'll never live that down with. They'll see me and say, oh yeah, I remember that time that lady stripped at the restaurant. I was like, that was not me, that was her.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Wow. What did you do? How did you respond and react in that moment?
I think there was a lot of screaming and yelling between like me and the GM as to like how were we supposed to deal with it. I was like, we got all these customers, these folks here still want to eat. And you know, the ball is not dropped. Let's keep this thing rolling.
Oh, wow. And that you did.
That we did, yes.
Awesome. That's crazy. And I appreciate you sharing that story. That is wild. So we talked about your most like challenging moments, but what about something that you felt very rewarded by, or something like one of your biggest accomplishments and most proud moments as a chef?
I think one of my proudest moments as a chef was probably opening my first restaurant.
Yes.
Yeah, 2003, opening the Blackberry Bistro. It had always been a goal of mine to open a restaurant.
And could you say the name again and where it was located?
It's Blackberry Bistro in Oakland, California.
Awesome.
It was in a district called the Glenview District, right up Park Boulevard. So nice, quiet, residential area with a small little commerce little spot. So we kicked it off in 2003, and it was a success from the moment it opened. I think a lot due in part to the grassroots nature of it. My then business partner had a restaurant on the street previously, or at the same time, and we decided to open this breakfast eatery. And I always tell folks the story that I'm a night owl, and I have been for many years working in the food service industry. And when she said, like, let's open a breakfast restaurant, I was like, I don't go to bed until 2 a.m. How am I going to get up at 6 or 7 to open a restaurant? But we did it. It was success. There's many, many days of staff calling me with the scratch in their throat of like, chef, I'm not going to make it today. And it's like 6:50. They need to be there at 7. So many mornings of me racing down the highway, getting to my shop. But I really loved that place and loved the experience of really stepping into entrepreneurship. It meant a lot to me, something I'm still very proud of today. And yeah, you know, it was tough, you know, being an entrepreneur, tough opening a restaurant, but you know, all of my life's dreams, you know, kind of coming to the surface here, and like being on the stage, being able to provide folks, you know, delicious food and working in my craft was just such a beautiful thing to be able to do. You know, it was a blessing. Just happened to, you know, be with someone that was sitting on a bag of money, and the timing with the landlord is, I think we negotiated the lease the day before the war in Afghanistan started. It was like next day, news flash, it's like we're at war. But that did not stop people from coming out to eat and patronizing and becoming loyal customers.
It sounds like divine timing too.
Yes. And actually there was a guy who owned the place previously that was I think it was called Seaports Cafe. But he had this idea of running Ethernet cable throughout the entire restaurant, so you can come in and plug your computer up and work, you know, before the hot spots. So we inherited the infrastructure of this place with all of this wiring that, like, within a matter of like months, it was obsolete because, you know, things had changed. But yeah, he was actually trying to sell us the restaurant before we purchased it. And the price just got lower, and lower. And then he disappeared, and we ended up negotiating with the then landlord. And
awesome.
Yeah, struck a deal.
That's awesome. Congratulations. That is definitely something to very much be proud of. I'm like, wow. I know if we had part 1 and 2, I'm like, how did you do it step by step? What would you? Because I know it's a process, and what a beautiful thing to be able to get a storefront and a restaurant up and running.
Yeah, I think for many years, people had talked about the industry and they talked about the success rate of restaurants and how you should not go into the restaurant business. And I really ignored all those things because it was such a big dream. I was not going to let anyone dash those dreams with statistics. I knew I was going to work hard and create great food and didn't know how successful the place would be. But, we're fortunate enough to bring it to a point to make money and actually in the end, be able to sell it was pretty amazing.
So, you mentioned dreams multiple times here. And so I just know that it takes a dreamer to do what you do, to be able to create beautiful meals, to be able to curate experiences for people. So how does your dream propel the work? And for those that are dreamers that aspire to be a chef like yourself, what kind of advice could you give them? And how has your dreams truly been like the ammunition for the work that you do?
Oh, that's beautiful. My dreams being ammunition. That is it. People have called me a dreamer and I'm like, I love it. It's like, keep that going because sometimes I think that dreamers are, if you will, dreamers are looked upon as like, you're kind of wandering and kind of lost and don't really have a succinct plan. But I think that if you're really passionate about something and you have a dream, you have a vision, you are your biggest cheerleader. And so for me, a lot of time alone, kind of trying to figure things out is like, it gave me the power to say, look, I'm going to be able to endure the obstacles that are going to come my way. I'm going to prepare because I know there is going to be obstacles, but we're going to get to the finish line here. And that is, in this case, was a restaurant. So I would just say, stay the course. Don't let anyone derail you. Be diligent and be deliberate about what it is you're looking to achieve. Really, set your mind to it, set some goals, and just know that sometimes things will change along the course, but still stay steadfast is the thing. Stay steadfast.
I love it.
You have folks that will discourage you. You'll be discouraged. You'll have folks who will not be behind you, not because it's anything intentional, but they just don't understand how deep your dream and your purpose is and what your calling is. And so for me, that's something that as I've been in, multiple businesses, I realized that it kind of comes back around that I'm so passionate about food, people, culture, that there's something radiating from me. And that's something I built. That's something that I made. I created, that energy that no one put that in me. That's something that's coming from inside. So if you trust and believe in what it is that you are aspiring to do and you stick with your guns, you can go places.
Best piece of advice that you've received along your journey that sticks with you? What is something that continues to stay in your heart as you move forward in your career?
Measure twice, cut once. That's in food. That's a huge one. Measure twice, cut once. You can't like right now in the space that I'm in catering, you have a party for 200 people and you have 200 salads to put out, right? You have 2 cases of lettuce. You have to make certain that you can't come to the finish line. You have 186 or 197, you have to be meticulous. And so you want to, as you embrace projects and as you embrace, events, you want to kind of, you could say overcompensate, if you will. You have a bit of a cushion, bit of an edge. And I can't say exactly where I've gotten this from. I've just watched a lot of chefs and a lot of people in the space, and you don't get to the finish line and not be able to deliver the product, or you're not able to open the restaurant or serve the last customer because of poor planning. So it's kind of having some planning in place and put in some hedges up to make certain that you can achieve what you're setting out to do.
I love it. I love it. And so I'm going to let the tables turn, if you will. As you know, I'm just getting started in this business. So to hear you say this, I'm so grateful. So please, thank you for filling me up.
Yeah, well, thank you. This is great. You have me thinking about some things I haven't thought about in a long time that actually inspire me to kind of dig deeper myself to see what's the next journey. Where are we going? Are you on track? Am I on track? So this is very inspiring. So thank you.
Of course.
So as the tables turn, Miss Natasha, do please tell me a little bit about, kind of where you're from and how you got started in this industry.
Awesome. So I'm from Flint, Michigan originally. Flintstone, yabba dabba doo, built to be resilient. So for me, similar to you, I have deep roots from the South. Like my family migrated from the South to Michigan because General Motors was here. And my grandmother, she's originally from a small town called Ullen in Missouri. Well, actually, I'm sorry. My mom's from St. Louis, Missouri, but her mother is from Ullen, Illinois. And so a lot of the families from Arkansas and things like that, bringing up those Southern roots. So I was eating good growing up too, just like yourself. I mean, hot water, cornbread, greens, fried chicken in a deep fryer, homemade pancakes as big as my face every Saturday morning with some beautiful sausage that she would make up herself. Cornbread dressing. And in my house, we just call it dressing with the sage, macaroni and cheese. So, I mean, you name it, we had it from scratch. I'm not talking about the Jiffy box. I'm talking about grab me that cornmeal, grab me that flour, grab me that baking soda. The real stuff, okay? So, my grandmother, she came to the door with powder on her face and on her duster because she'd been in that kitchen cooking, okay? Fresh pound cakes. I mean, the whole nine. So I grew up a foodie, and it has just been something that has continued to fuel my heart because my mom also cooks. And so for our family, it's truly been like, we love through our food. You know what I'm saying? No matter what's going on, you hungry? You want a plate? Come on over. I got this. I can wrap up something for you to go or whatever the case. Of course you can stay, but if you don't have time for that, I'm gonna make sure you leave with some food. So for me, how I got into this industry is really honestly during the pandemic. I feel like it was a lot of times. I now live in Los Angeles and I was away from family for a little bit of time, but from my bloodline family, but I've built family in California. And so with having different people that I'm rooming with, even like we have become like friends and family and we cook for one another. So I just remember one Thanksgiving in particular, the Thanksgiving food wasn't ready yet, but I'm like, what do I have here to entertain the guests? And it was really my roommate's family, but I'm like, I have crackers, I have cheese, I have this, I have that. And I have this beautiful cutting board. So I really just put everything on this cutting board, put it out for them. Like, hey, at least they'll be able to nibble. Cause I know for me, when I come in someone's home, I'm ready to eat most of the time. I'll play polite, but usually you come through the door.
We have a lot more in common than I thought.
Doing that, but then too, just to kind of rewind just a tad, because I'm specifically specializing in charcuterie. So that is your meats, your cheeses, your accoutrements and everything. And I'm really in a place where it really started with Lunchables. I've always liked the combination of meat, cheese, and crackers. Then I was tagging along with my grandma and my mother to different events. A lot of time people had all these cheese and crackers at these little tables and functions. And I always had my plate loaded. A kid, we don't have a lot of tact in that. It's like, we want what we want. And so I just always loved the combination. And then fast forward, living in the Bay, we go to Lake Merritt, we go to Trader Joe's, we'll pick up cheeses and meats and do a nice little picnic display with friends. So it really became this I think I really acquired a taste for cheese, meat, honeys, jams just over time. Then fast forward to moving to LA, having my own little Netflix and chill night by myself. Because as a single woman at the time, I just wanted to be able to have special moments. I believe in drinking out of water from a wine glass. And I mean, like just taking a cutting board at night, breaking up some dark chocolate. I got maybe 3 strawberries left. Let me slice that up. grab a little piece of cheese. I still have an end on that I'm not using, and just making it look beautiful. And I wasn't really doing it on purpose until one day I sat down and said, oh, that's really cute. Let me take a picture of this. Sent it to my family because I felt like I was doing something. And then that's when I did it for Thanksgiving for my friend. And then when I went home, during the pandemic, I started making breakfast items where I would slice up beautiful fruit like dragon fruit, or I'll put smoked salmon out, or, cheeses and chocolates and whatever I could get my hands on in my pantry. And just like, hey, let's nibble and munch on this. And it's beautiful. And then my sister finally requested, hey, I'm going back to school. I would love as my send-off to do one of those beautiful charcuterie boards with the dried fruit and the plums and the this. And so that became the task that day. She missioned me on purpose to do this for her. So it was a spread. It was nuts, cheeses, apricots, like brie, Gouda, like everything I could grab, I grabbed and assembled it. And had my little Martinelli sparkling juice, put some flowers out for the family. And it was beautiful. So I posted it on Instagram and on Facebook. And people started asking me like, hey, do you cater, or would you sell these? And people that are in my industry, I'm an actor by training, and that's why I'm in Los Angeles. And people just ask like, are you available to do this? Or this is so cute. And people that I know have beautiful taste, because I know they're kind of eating up higher on the hog. And I'm like, they like this too? I said, coming from you, thank you. And so for me, it just became really, really a creative outlet, Chef Dorsey, because the industry, as far as entertainment, was closed. I wasn't able to be in theater. I wasn't able to be on set. And so for me, hospitality, which I think is just in our family's DNA and bloodline, it really, I had the time to really let it flourish and be full in it. And so from there, I just posted a post literally on Memorial Day of 2021. And I said, I'm going for it. These pictures I've been taking over the years. I initially thought I was going to take some brand new demo pictures and post those, but something in my spirit just said, post what you have, what you already have in your hand. They're available for sale this weekend, available for order. And I said, God, if I get my first order, I just kind of feel like this will kind of give me maybe that confirmation that I'm feeling. And before you knew it, I had about 3 inquiries and 1 hard order that weekend. I had just posted it literally the day before. And from there, I've been blessed. People have tapped me for film sets. I have a catering order coming up soon to do a grazing table for a friend's brunch. And so it's like this beautiful new beginning that I'm literally just taking something I was passionate about, food, hospitality, and making people smile. And now I'm making a business out of it. And it's called Creative Charcuterie.
Amazing. Creative. I get all that I feel those creative juices going now. And I'm like, wow, it's amazing being in the room, if you will, with another creative and to talk about food of all things. So that's such a blessing. And I love the story, how things have come together. And, I like to say that, I have a little bit of a silver lining that's coming out of this pandemic. I'm definitely enjoying what's coming out of the pandemic for you as well. So
thank you.
Great. Tell me, Natasha, what's been one of the biggest challenges with entering the food space? Like, have you come up against any obstacles, roadblock?
Chef Dorsey, that's a great question. And if you have any advice, scaling now, figuring out how to get items for wholesale, because I'm currently going to like Ralph's and Kroger and, different places that kind of sell things pricey, but in smaller quantities. But I noticed that I'm like, I know that there's a way to scale this so that I am making a profit off of it, because I'm thinking of supplies, my boards, the actual supplies that I need, the actual produce. So I'm trying to figure out how to scale, but I'm looking forward to turning the passion into true profit,
Well, that's great. Like, as I said earlier, like you have the passion is what drive this thing was birthed out of your passion and your creativity. And then, the other resources you surround yourself with to make it something that's sustainable is the next step. So
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, have you been given any advice along the way as you've ventured out as an entrepreneur and you're branching out here? Has there been any tips and things that people have shared with you as you've expressed what you're doing and that you're taking this leap? Has there been folks that share things with you to help guide you and get you on track?
I would say it's so interesting. What I realized in the creative space, I feel like it almost feels like everybody around you is an expert. And it's almost like, because I'm an actor, people will be like, oh, you should do this. Have you caught Tyler Perry? It's just like, I wish it were that easy. So now that I'm coming over into the culinary space as well, what I have realized is that people are giving you advice because they see something in you. And so what I have learned, there's so many different ways to branch out. Like friends that know I'm doing charcuterie, they're now sending me like, hey, did you know you can branch out into picnics or contact this person? So I'm learning like the networking space a bit more with this and how to network with people that may be in event spaces where we can hire each other and collaborate. But I would say too, even from clients, like things that would make it easier for them. So like sometimes they may not need a hard, heavy wooden board, but for them, a box would serve them better if they're going to an event or a picnic. So I think the advice is almost like, because I've been open to receiving feedback, I think the advice kind of comes, I don't know if somebody said this, but for me, I think it's remaining open. I think I've received that as a result of the feedback I've received and the encouragement that I received. Like, remain open, because people that believe in your vision are going to continue to pour into you. But if you aren't humble or aren't in a place to receive feedback or receive ways to look at things differently and how you can expand, you'll close yourself off. So it's like, no one told me that, but that is what I'm gathering since people are giving me so much advice. And people, I would say, because I'm posting what I'm doing, people are like sliding in my DMs like, hey, did you see this? Or this is how this person is doing that. And it's just like, you just never know what's going to be that thing that you really needed to take what you do to the next level. So I would say it's kind of, I've received, be open.
That's amazing. That's great. It's great that you can see that. I mean, as an entrepreneur, I'd have to say that there's a lot of times for me that not being able to see that has cost me. So that is a great gift that you're extracting that from all this feedback and all the suggestions that you're getting, is to remain open. So
thank you. And it's been exciting. And I mean, it's something I'm on a journey of learning, because I think sometimes, depending on how you receive it, it can seem like maybe criticism, like, oh, you sent me this. Is it because you didn't like what I did? Or like,
hold up.
Right. But what you have to realize is not that. That's why perspective is everything. I will honestly say I had to change my perspective. It's because now people are associating what you have as a service to what they're seeing, and however they can feel like they're kind of fueling your journey, they're going to do that. So whether it's advice, sometimes it may literally come in like, hey, let me send this to you to be a seed in what you're doing. So it's a thing of letting go, truly, of like, obviously staying cemented in what you feel like God is telling you to do, or like what you feel like your creative artistry is, because I think you just have a knowing. So as long as you know that, it's always some space to be flexible, to learn, to grow, to expand. And I'm still playing with that. And I would just say it's a transparent journey. I'm just sharing that because I realize that's what it takes too.
Yeah. Well, sounds like you are well on your way. I'm inspired. I'm sitting here inspired. This is like treat. I'm like, okay. Yes. And I just had to do that. I mean, even very, very much, even this morning, even in preparation for this interview, it's like my mom is my biggest cheerleader. And so she's like, do you have notes prepared? Do you have this? And it's like, you could almost, one option is you could take it and say, do you think I'm not prepared, mama? Or the other is, let me make sure I'm as prepared as I can be. Let me make sure, because you got to remember, people around you are really here to support you. So it's all in perception, how we choose to receive it. And may I always be on the reception end of being open and expecting that people mean well and mean good for me. So if you had to, now in your, this short while that you've been in the space and you're exploring how to scale, someone coming behind you or coming right in the door, right behind you, that's in what would you share with them on how to get their footing and to get prepared to start in the food service space?
Yes, I would say like making information available to them, making information just available. And I would say like, don't hold on to any of it, because at the end of the day, there's space for all of us. There's going to be a specialty for all of us. Even if you and I are doing the same thing, how God gifted you to do something is going to be different from how he's gifting and telling me to do something. So I am just learning. It's so much like, because I just want that for myself. Even I'm like, who can I talk to about this particular space? Because it's a unique space. It's a niche, very niche space to be in. So I would just say, coming through the door, I am here. I am available. If you have questions, let's do some spirits. Let's do some tea. Let's do some water breaks, because I'm here and available to share resources and information with you. And if I don't have it, let me help you find who does. That's what I would say, making myself accessible and available for someone who needs the resources that I know I once needed.
So yeah, Natasha, thank you so much for sharing. This is amazing. Like I said, I'm feeling inspired just learning more about you and Creative Charcuterie. And so tell me this. There's rewards and there's challenges in this business. Just give me a scenario where you have felt most rewarded in the work that you've begun to do with Creative Charcuterie.
Okay, most rewarded. I would certainly say when I received an order from an acting colleague for me to have my boards featured in her short film. This is her directorial debut called Ivar Tunnel Shook Ones. It was filmed in Los Angeles. So it was so interesting to come back after the pandemic and not necessarily get booked for a role, but my creative passion turned business is booked in a film. So that was such a cool moment, because I was still on set, still around the creative energy that I love, but in a different capacity. So it was just such a rewarding experience. It's so much fun too. Really it was, because I'm doing what I love. Like, this is another outlet for me that's just so much fun, and to see how it still served my Hollywood aspirations. It was really, really, it's been a cool journey.
Also, I heard you talk a little bit earlier about community. Is there any social impact or community component to the work you're doing with your business, Creative Charcuterie?
Thank you so much for asking that. So for me at this time, being that I'm from Flint, Michigan, and this is where the water crisis started. So I'm at a beautiful beginning. So I appreciate this question, because now I also feel challenged, like, how are we going to have a social impact? But where I have started is that I've wanted to make sure I'm sourcing locally wherever I am, and specifically supporting Black-owned businesses. So for me, I've already found like a place that I know has beautiful meats and cheeses in LA. Looking forward to patronizing and adding that on my boards. While I'm in Flint, Michigan, here at the farmers market where I'm even recording, they have so many beautiful small businesses that I can support. So I'm looking forward to sourcing locally, and specifically when I can, supporting Black-owned businesses and getting their brands out here and collaborating with Black-owned businesses to really stir the economy in that way.
Yeah, as we talk about, social impact, we as a company definitely looking to be able to create some career opportunities for some young people here in the Oakland, San Francisco Bay Area, and kind of change the trajectory of where our young men and women are landing that are in disenfranchised spaces. So definitely want to be able to be a beacon of light where there is no light in those communities. So
yes,
I love to visit Flint. I've never been.
Yes,
love to check out your community there.
I would love that. Just be prepared for some good home cooking. That's all you need to do.
You ain't said nothing but a word.
Yes. So as we close today, I want to make sure I ask you the same question, because you have more tenure in this industry, more experiences, highs, lows, and things you've had to, overcome to be the success that you are. What would you say to the young person trying to get in this industry that right now they're 11 years old and just realize they're in their grandma's kitchen? Like, I love this. How do I make a career out of this? Mm-hmm. What would you say to them? How should they move forward? What's the next step for them?
I would say the first thing is like focus on your education. Education is the pathway to your dreams. And to that 11-year-old, you're going to be able to have so many rich and rewarding conversations and be able to receive some great advice if you continue to educate yourself and stay focused on the books. One of the things that I didn't have as a young person coming up was that I had this passion for food, but didn't have the support of a family behind me. Say, look, you need to maybe graduate high school and go off to college, or maybe go to culinary school. It was just this thing I had as a young kid that I fostered and I pushed. And, my grandmother, who lived down the street, was like a whole world away. And luckily she was there. She kind of helped guide me a bit, but I kind of got lost in the whole school system and didn't, finish up. I didn't go off to school. I ended up becoming emancipated and going off and doing some different things, but I found my way. But again, back to that 11-year-old, it's remaining a good student and following, what your educators and parents, if they're supporting you, what they're saying. And it's one thing to be a great chef or want to be a restaurateur, but you have to have the business acumen. You have to learn business. And that's something that 11-year-old is not going to hear. So I'm speaking to my 17-year-old, you have to learn business. You have to know finance. And if you don't, you have to know you have to be educated enough to hire those people to surround your business to make it a success. There's a lot of successful people in the world, and they're not experts at everything, but they're informed enough to be able to hire the help that they need. So education.
That's so key. Thank you. For the 11-year-old, for the 17-year-old, for the new entrepreneur. That helped us all. Thank you. So as we close out, Chef Dorsey, how can people find you? And please give us your business name and your website and your social media handles.
So again, our business is Robert Dorsey Catering and Events. We're at www.chefrobertdorsey.com on the World Wide Web. And IG, we're at Chef Robert Dorsey Catering. And Facebook, we're at Chef Robert Dorsey Catering. And so you can find us there. You can keep up with all of our pop-ups and special events and kind of get a peek into what we're doing in the private and corporate space. Sometimes I just share tips and just share information about my life outside of the kitchen. So I try to keep things exciting and fun. And thank you for this hour and having this very beautiful exchange. And I'm looking forward to the opportunity to sit down and try one of these creative charcuterie boards. I've seen them online on your IG and I've enjoyed them, but looking forward to enjoying them in person, and wish you all the very best in scaling your operation and just your aspirations. You're so bright and carry such a beautiful energy about yourself. And I'm certain that you will totally crush it out there. And so let's continue this. Let's stay in contact. I'm here as a resource.
I just say quickly, people, you can follow me at Creative Charcuterie _ on Instagram. Again, that is Creative Charcuterie _ on Instagram. And I am also at Natasha LaGrone on Instagram. And that is kind of a full ombre of who Natasha is as an actor, as a culinary artist, as a charcuterie artist. And I'm looking forward to engaging and supporting you in all that you're doing.
You've been listening to The State of Events, where event professionals connect. For more episodes, you can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and Podbean. To engage with us on social media, look for @TSO Community. That's @TSOE Community. You can also visit our Facebook page, The State of Events. Make sure you stay connected by joining our newsletter. And lastly, we would love to hear from you. If you have topic suggestions, if you want to be a guest on the show, send us an email to inquiries@thestateofevents.com. That's inquiries at thestateofevents.com.